Hello there and welcome to Basic Banjo. This is lesson 5. I'm Timothy Dirksen, and this lesson we'll be understanding how to use the capo on the banjo and then how to play along with other instruments. So the banjo, at least usually, is tuned to an open G. That means when you strum across it, that's a G chord. Now some people can't sing in that key, so they change it. So maybe they'll play in A, or C, or D, or some other key like that. And you can play in these keys by playing the chords, but for example, say something like A, where you put your finger across the whole second fret, and then you play it that way, and you play the A, D, and E chords. Or you can put on the capo, which is something sort of like this here, and you put it on your second fret, and then you also have to, with the banjo, because your fifth string is shorter, you also have to capo that, and this one has a smaller capo that goes on it. I like my Chords capo here, but so then you fret each string on the second fret. So then you can play your G, C, and D chords like normal, except now you'll be in the key A. So which is basically the same sound as playing in like this. Except you have your capo on. And C and D is basically like that, except C is on your 5th fret, so then you capo everything up 5 frets on, so you put your big capo here, and then you put this one down 5 frets. D is 7th, and so on. So that is how you play their capo. Now, the second part of this video is how to play with other instruments. Because right now, you've learned your basic chords, your G, C, and D, and you know how to use their capo in part of our roll patterns. The next step in playing is how do you play with someone else. Because you can always play with yourself. But after a while, that becomes, well, a little bit mundane and kind of boring, and it's always nice to play with someone else, because that's just how it sounds. And usually you'll be playing with a guitar player. I'm not very good at guitar, I just kind of started a bit, but I know kind of the basic chords, and I'll try to show you kind of the chord formation of them. Now, when you're following the guitar player, there is some people that will play lead guitar, and that's where they pick around the melody, so something more like this. Something like that. They pick around and you can't really tell exactly what chord they're playing. The people that you want to follow is what's called the rhythm guitar players. And they basically form the whole chord shapes, and they just go kind of like that. So it's a very basic pattern how they play. And now I'll show you kind of what these chords look like. Here, if I can get my camera to work here. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay, I think that works. Okay. Now the first chord, because the guitar is not tuned to an open key, is G. G looks like this. So when someone's playing guitar and they have it like this, this is G. The next chord would be C. C is like this when they play. So you have your G like this, your C, and then your D, which is like that. So they're very different in how they look. So I'm going to play a bit of Amazing Grace. I can't sing in G. So I'm going to use my capo, which is something sort of like the banjo capo, except it's a lot bigger. I like to use Kaiser, so they basically look the same like what I have on the banjo. And I'm going to capo it up to B. B is your 4th fret here. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and you capo on your 4th fret. So your instrument should sound like this. It should be a bit higher. So I'll play a little first line of Amazing Grace. And that's kind of how the chord, that's Amazing Grace should be on everybody's basic playlist because it's perfect for how it goes for the chord pattern. You go for G, C, G back in, then the D, back to G, C, G, because it's the same, there's no odd measures or anything like, or beats like that. It's perfect. And basically everyone knows that song too, so it's a really good one to learn. But what happens if you're in a place where there's not so much a lead guitar, and maybe there's the guy, not lead guitar, rhythm guitar, but instead the guy's playing lead guitar, and maybe there's a different instrument that you don't know what the chords are playing the rhythm and backup. What do you play? How do you know which chords are what? Well, that's where you kind of have to learn what these chords sound like. And that's kind of on your own, playing along with maybe CDs and recordings or other people too. And your G will always be your lowest key. So there's your G, then your C is the higher key, and your D is the highest. So it goes your G, C, and D. And I'll show you more of that when I pick up my Dobro over here, and you can really see how that all works. So let's play a little bit of Amazing Grace. I'll try to pick it out here. odd picking, but and then you can kind of somewhat hear of how that works, where your chords should go. And practice always makes perfect. You keep on going back and forth to finally learn how that works. So you have your G chord, your C chord, and your D chord. And when you get into more involved songs, you'll understand what the chord patterns are, like say E minor or A and chords like that. But for the most part, you just need to know your G, C, and the D. So you can kind of play along with other people and kind of more or less cheat off of what other people are playing. Now, let's see if I can get this back up. Now, my next instrument that I've actually been seeing quite a bit of these besides the guitar is the Dobro. And these are instruments you'll encounter in jams. The Dobro is kind of like a guitar here. And it has your cover plate here, so it's a responsive guitar. But the neck is really square, so you don't play it like a guitar. You play it flat. And then you play it with a steel bar here. So it's it's a lot of slides. Some people will play blues or whatnot. But these are the second most common instruments, at least that I've came across in at a jam. And they're also the instruments I play too, so that also helps a bit. But this one's kind of basic too, in that, let's see if I can get this thing to work here. It's hard to tell where my camera's at. There we are. Okay. In that this is tuned to an open G. So it's the same tuning as a banjo. Okay, grab my cape over here. So with the Dobro though, you have your G, and then you play your C over at your 5th fret, and then your D at the 7th. And this is a little bit of music theory, a bit of how these work, is your first chord will be wherever you have it, and then you go up 5 frets, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you find your next fret, which in this case is C, and then you go up 7 frets, so you're at 5, 6, 7, and that's your next fret chord, which is D. Whereas with A, you're here at the 2nd fret, you go up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at D, and you go up 2 more and you're at E already. And that's kind of a little bit, Dobro is really good for music theory because it's kind of laid out just like that. But you gotta understand how your chords work on the banjo, because if you lay your fingers all across the whole fretboard at the 5th fret or the 7th fret, it'll also be a C and a D. So when I'm playing here, say someone's playing a little bit of backup or something, so it's like, so you have your G, C, G, D, G, D, C, G, and then your D. So, for something, that's like if you're Dobro is a bit hard to watch how other people are playing because a lot of times they'll be playing little slides or lead-ins or something like that. So they'll be like, and Dobro also, they can be playing, say here, they're not always on time because they don't have to be. They can lead into a chord. But since these are the two most common instruments you'll come across, it's kind of nice to know how they sound like when they're playing. So I'll do a bit of Amazing Grace and try to keep in the same chord thing here. So So you can tell how it's a little bit different, but it kind of sounds all the same. So I'll try to say chords when I'm playing this song. So you have your G chord first, C, G, D, G, C, how you can kind of play with them. But for the most part, your main chord will be the lowest. So you have your lower chord. Your next chord, or C in this case, will be a bit higher. And then your highest chord, or in this case D, and that's your chord that you play. Or an A. Now what does get a bit tricky here is if someone is playing, saying C or D and they drop down a chord. Instead of playing C, so without C, playing F, and then going to G way up here, they might go C, F, and then drop back to G. But for the most part, when you're trying to play with someone, find someone who's kind of playing, either isn't real experienced, so they're just playing the chords as of right now, or they're actual playing the rhythm. So like a guitar player, or maybe a not as experienced mandolin or dobro player who's just playing the chords that you can follow off of, and you can be able to play with someone in a song. So I hope that helps you a little bit and understand how you can kind of play with someone else. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.